Hey there, girlfriend. Ingafay here. Super excited to be with you today. For those of you that don't know me, I am a confidence coach for home-based business owners, and I am super excited to share one of my coaching girlfriends with you, Giovanna. She has spent over 10 years traveling the world, y'all, observing human behavior and asking what truly makes us happy, healthy, and fulfilled. And she has discovered the secret sauce. And we're going to get into that today. But without further ado, just hold tight so you can meet my girlfriend, Giovanna. We'll see you inside. What's up, girlfriend?
Hello, hello.
How are you today?
I'm wonderful. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm excited.
Yes, I am so excited to have you here. But before we get into why human connection is so important, I wanted us to find more about you, who you are, who you serve, and how you serve them.
Yeah, that's a mouthful. So who am I? Well, essentially, I'm Giovanna Elias. I call myself a human connection and communication expert. And I've spent the last few years, like you said, traveling the world and really observing humans and observing human behavior and really asking, what is this all about? And watching people and realizing that at the base of every human being, we all want to be heard and seen and recognized and appreciated. And I think the very thing that really makes us feel fulfilled in life is our relationships and the connections that we have in those relationships. Right. And so I really do believe, and I say this every day, I say this all the time to my clients, the quality of our life is really based upon the quality of our connections and our relationships. So if we could learn how to talk to each other, if we could learn how to communicate, how to overcome the conflicts that we have with the people in our lives, we'd have a much smoother life. And I think we'd have a very different looking planet. The thing is, Inga, at the end of the day, I say everything comes down to people problems. Everything is a people problem, right? Everything starts with the relationship we have with ourselves, first and foremost. Right. And then it moves on to, of course, the problems we have with our colleagues, our clients, our bosses, our families, our kids, our parents, our romantic relationships, maybe not having those romantic relationships that we want, our friendships, business partners. So, every area of life, we are moving through these relationships. And if we don't know, first and foremost, how to understand ourselves, and then secondly, how to communicate that effectively, there's definitely a huge breakdown and a lot of suffering that I see. So to wrap everything up in terms of what you asked me, what I have come to do and build out for my clients is what I call the connection code. And it's my 9-key system to teaching people how to really build deep, meaningful connections with each other.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So I guess you've kind of already told us that, but I just want to make sure that it's crystal clear. Mm-hmm. Why do you believe that human connections are so important?
Yeah. I mean, definitely, like you said, and like we've dug into just a little bit now, human connection really is the key to understanding the people that we're in front of, to understanding who we're sharing space with in this world. And I think that, like I said, we'd have a very different planet. We'd have very different relationships if we could really unravel the layers, the onions of a person, right? Those layers of the onion of someone, if we could really unravel all of that and get to the core of who someone really is, who's sitting in front of us. One, I think we would learn a lot because everyone has a story, everyone has their experiences, and everyone can teach us something new. Mm-hmm. But two, I think we'd have a lot more empathy and compassion for the people that we share space with, because we would understand through deeply connecting, through asking questions, through actively listening, through soulfully sharing with each other, we would deeply understand each other on a different level. And I think that would totally change the way that we actually relate to each other. And I think that would remove a lot of judgment off the table, a lot of shame off the table, a lot of blame. Right. And we would actually be having real, authentic conversations with people and really understanding who we are.
Awesome. So I'm curious, how did you come to teaching this?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I would say it was a combination of, firstly, I went to school for communication and human rights law. And when I was in
Okay.
school, I learned all the atrocities going on in the world on
Mhm.
a national and international scale. And I thought, how can humans behave like this? How can we do some of the things that we do? And how do we not know how to really talk to each other and how to work through these problems without having to lead to, wars and genocides and conflicts?
Right.
The other piece of that is that I went back to school for holistic medicine.
Mm.
And that piece was really about understanding and learning the relationship with ourselves from a physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual or energetic standpoint. And so, when I came out of school, I really realized, I'm like, I think communications is really important. I think recognizing all the conflicts in the world just can't be dismissed. But at the same time, everything starts with the relationship with ourselves. And so
Right.
how do I pair these two worlds together? And then, of course, through all my travels, and more than anything, I would say there was one day when I was coming off the subway in Toronto, I was watching this couple just having this screaming match back and forth at each other
Hmm.
and yelling out loud in front of everybody. And I remember looking at them and thinking, they don't need to be suffering. They don't need to be having these problems. They just don't have the skills to know how to talk to each other.
Wow.
And not only that, but when we're emotionally explosive towards whoever it is we're fighting with, that then gets cascaded out into the world. And so everybody in the subway was looking around and just as disturbed, shocked, maybe some people laughing. But now that has an impact on the outside world. And so I think the most important thing and what really struck me in that moment was, if we knew how to talk to each other, if we knew how to overcome the conflicts that we're facing, then not only would we have a smoother existence and not have to suffer so much ourselves, but also we wouldn't be impacting everyone else around us. And I think
Right.
we see that on a personal level inside of families, inside of romantic relationships. But I also think we, like I said, see that on an international level, between governments fighting with each other and how much that has an effect on the people.
So I'm curious, when it comes to business, how does this affect us? Because I know I've been hearing a lot of things about the power of relationships. And I can share a quick story with you, so I can just kind of give you my backstory, because we always need to know people's backstory to see where they're coming from.
Yeah, of course.
But, I've been in direct sales for almost 20 years now. And when I was first started out, we were taught to go out and just ask people if they were interested in what we sold. Just that was the first question that we talked about. And I realized that over the years, that when I did that I had more of a transactional type of relationship with my customers, more not really a relationship, like that's my girl. It was just, that's my XYZ consultant kind of person.
Yeah.
And I found over the years that I've lost people because of that, for whatever reason, because I was that translational type of consultant, more so than really getting to know them and finding out about their family and truly building that relationship. So even outside of them buying products from me, that we were girls. Can you talk a little bit more about the value, well, how valuable that is just in business itself?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's an excellent question. People do business with people. People
Right.
don't do business when it's transactional. And at the basis of all of that is building a foundation of trust and of comfort and of safety, especially when we're doing business. That often means there's money on the line.
Right.
There needs to be a degree of feeling safe while going into what is, at the end of the day, some form of a transaction, but you want it to feel as humane, as human to human as possible. There needs to be sort of that safety blanket, and that gets built out from actually building these more meaningful relationships with people.
Right.
So if we were to go into any sort of, business relationship with it having this sort of transactional feel to it, I think people would feel like they're treated more like a number.
Right.
They would feel like they're only as important or meaningful to you as what they can give to you.
Right.
Versus actually feeling like you care about who they are and, about the, like I said, the real humane side of them, what makes them who they are, and that you actually care to do business with them because it is them. And so I think when we do add in that aspect, that that real, authentic type of relationship with someone, not only do people want to do business with you one time, then they will refer you. Then they will send more people to you. Then they keep coming back and doing more and more business with you. It's because you've built that foundation of trust and comfort and safety and connection with them. And we all know that we want to go back to a place where we feel most comfortable. We know that we don't like to spend time with people that we're uncomfortable around or we're not connected to, but very unconsciously, we will always go back to the people that we feel the most comfortable with and the most connected with. So if we can build that out in our business relationships, that is like huge in terms of the degree of just long-term success that we can build for ourselves.
Right. And I noticed that when I've started to build my business that way, that I guess when you're thinking about it as a transaction, the transaction doesn't come as fast.
Yeah.
Because you're building the relationship first, is what I've noticed.
Yes.
And then as time goes on, it's almost like you put your work in the beginning, and then the fruits of your labor are paid on over and over and over again. So what are some ways that as entrepreneurs that we can develop a deeper relationship with our leads and our prospects when we're just getting to know them? They're not a client yet. We're kind of on the front end of the process where we're working to develop that relationship so we can have something deeper.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I'm gonna say two things need to take place here. One is more from our side of things, and the other one is more from then the exchange between us. From our side, if we go in attached to what we need the outcome of any business relationship to be, then it's going to feel robotic. It's going to feel like extremely painfully slow, because if you're attached to needing that person to be your client tomorrow, then that energy is going to come through in your interaction, and the person is going to feel like there's some sort of tension, almost like there's a velocity, there's a quickness, there's an anxiety around this relationship, rather than allowing it to naturally unravel and flow. Now, because it is more of a long-term game, I would say then the second piece of this is when you are reaching out to someone, it may feel tedious, but actually reading their profile. So, if you're going onto their LinkedIn or you're going onto their Facebook or whatever sort of social media, you're looking up them, who they are, their work, look at those little details, the little tidbits of who they are and what they've put out there, and ask them questions about it. Speak to them about that, because automatically you're showing, I took the time to read about you. I took the time to learn about you. I want to know more about that. Tell me more about it. And sometimes I will find that I don't necessarily see a lot of information on someone's, social media platforms, and I don't necessarily know a lot about them. But then, assuming we do hop on a call, then I actually do dig deeper and I ask them, because I actually want to know. And so, really having those conversations that move beyond business even, and just asking the personal little pieces. And I think often we're afraid to do that because it's like, am I asking too much? Is this taboo? Is this too personal? And I would actually encourage you to be personal, because that personal touch is what's going to make the difference between somebody doing business with you versus somebody else.
Right. I guess it makes me think about when we first connected. I instantly felt the connection. It wasn't about a sale at all. It was just like, hey, this girl, she's my girlfriend. I just met her one time. And I guess I want more people to have that kind of experience and not really be so caught up in the sale. Because there are times, like if you have a certain goal that you're reaching for, that you can get kind of caught up in the moment of, okay, well, is this the one? Is she the one?
For sure.
So just kind of, and that's why I really wanted to bring that up, because I know I have been in that position as well, that you're working on a goal, and it's getting closer to the end of the month, and it may not be working out the way you want it to. So you're doing your due diligence and developing relationships with folks, but you're not sure how long it's going to take for this thing to start turning around like you would want it to turn around.
Yeah.
So as a result of that uncertainty, you're just like, well, yeah.
And that comes through in our energy, and people can
it does.
feel that. People can feel that, Inga. And that's why I say every relationship starts with ourselves, right? Like once we do the work on ourselves, then it shows up in entirely 100% in the way we verbally and non-verbally communicate.
Right.
So just as much in our presence as it is in the way we're speaking or the words we're saying or the delivery or the tone, all of that trickles through. And most people don't consciously know, but unconsciously, you always know when you walk away from an interaction with someone feeling good or feeling drained. We just know it. We feel it.
Right.
And so if you do feel energized and you do feel good, you always want to go back to it. So, that's why it's so important for us to clean up our own stuff, needless to say. And of course, having a coach helps a lot.
Right.
And it's exactly like what you do, Inga, right? You're a confidence coach. Confidence is a huge piece behind business. If you don't feel secure in the work that you're doing, then that comes through in your energy, and people can feel that, and it will make them feel uncomfortable. That happens in dating. It happens in business. It happens in interviews. It happens when you go out to networking events or anything. Depending how you energetically show up and how confident you present, that's going to either attract people in or create this natural kind of dispersion.
You're going to either attract or repel, right?
Yeah. This is it. Yeah.
So I know you briefly talked about your 9 key system for the connection code. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So I know if we dug into all 9, we'd be here all day and night.
Yeah.
So for the sake of it, I'll share a few with you guys. The first one, and I've actually touched on this a bit already. The first one is what I call curiosity. And so first and foremost, we really want to get curious about who we are. What are our values? What are our goals? What's important for us? What do we like? What do we not like? What do we want? What are our boundaries? Maybe I said this already. Our desires, right? Our values. All of these things we want to get clear on and ask ourselves. We want to get curious first and foremost about ourselves. Because if we don't know these things about ourselves, we sure as hell can't communicate this. And clearly we can't communicate it with the people in our lives. But the second piece to curiosity, and what I find even more fascinating, is really digging in layers deep, like I said, about other people and asking them these quality questions. And I think when we're really actively listening to someone, then we can bounce these ideas off of them and then dig one layer deeper and ask another question and listen and share and ask another question and listen and share and ask another question. And now we're going layers deeper into understanding the person that's in front of us.
Right.
And so I see this a lot in business, and I see this a lot in romantic relationships, that people are not asking about who they're keeping company with. And so they go into business with someone, they build out business partnerships or teams, or they go on dates and end up in these relationships that don't end up necessarily working out. And I say, did you do your homework right? In other words, did you ask the right questions from the beginning? Did you see if your values align with their values?
Exactly.
Because if they don't align, then right there is the red flag, right? Don't go forwards.
Right.
So that's a huge piece. And even to add to that a little bit, we often don't even get curious about the people we've had in our lives for many, many years. So let's say our family, our mom or our dad or our kids, we often assume that we just know them.
Right.
But because we've been with them for so many years. But if we actually start to dig in and say, well, maybe my parents actually had a life before me. Maybe I should ask them about that life.
Right.
What made them who they are. Or, maybe my kids are having crazy cool experiences at school that I'm not asking them about. Maybe I should dig deeper and actually sit and listen and get to know them on a whole other level. So I think rather than assuming we know about the people in our lives, this also includes our partners, our romantic partners, people that are married for multiple years. They assume that they know each other inside out. And yet sometimes the biggest secrets can lie underneath someone. So really getting curious about the people we share space with, not just new people, but also the people we've had in our lives for many years, can continue to unravel that onion and go layers deeper and connect deeply.
Yeah, that's an awesome point. One thing I wanted to bring up, because this has just kind of been on me since you've been talking. I know you initially told us that you love to travel and you've been all over the place.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the things that we are not cognizant of is because we haven't exposed ourselves to different environments, where people do things differently than what we do. And we just think, okay, well, I do it this way, so I just pretty much thought everybody did it this way. But I guess that was the part that I actually love about what you were saying, that, you've traveled the world, so you've seen different things, you've seen different cultures and seen people do things a different way. So you're more open to that. And I think a lot of the things that we endure just in general is we're just so used to our way, and we think our way is the only way, and not really being cognizant of what others could be potentially thinking or doing differently and getting maybe even better results than we are. But because we're not open-minded enough for us to see that, we're not willing to do that. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
I actually love that you brought this up, because one of these 9 keys is what I call being fully flexible. And so this is all about going into any relationship with an open mind and open heart.
Right.
And I mean, even Darwin said this: survival of the fittest. The people that survive the most are the ones that are the most adaptable to their environments.
Right.
Adaptability really is about having an open mind and heart. It's about going into any space with any person, any language, any culture, any tradition, whatever it may be, and being able to smoothly adapt into that environment. And that really does consist of saying, I'm going to put all things I think I know about the world and all beliefs that I have about the world just on pause for a moment, so I can understand your view and the way you see things and how you behave in life and you think is quote unquote normal. Right. And so really what I have learned from traveling is, one, we all have different filters on how we see the world. And our filters are bound to be different just simply based on where we're born and raised and the upbringing we're brought into.
For sure.
And even the language we speak, Inga, it's wildly crazy how much the language we grow up with can program the way that we think about the world, the way that we express our emotions, the way that we feel things and think things can entirely change. Because there's certain words that exist in some languages that don't even exist in others.
Right.
So it's like a concept can exist in one culture that may not even exist in another. And so to be able to go into any sort of environment, even if you're in the same country, let's say, but you're going into a different environment with different people that have different, maybe educational backgrounds, or, different ways of seeing things. I think it is so powerful and so beneficial for us to say, let me put my ego on the shelf for a second. Let me put all these beliefs on the shelf for just a second. And once going back to the curiosity piece, let me get curious and ask about who this person is and maybe what is the gem inside of them about their life experiences that they can teach me. Right. And this doesn't mean we have to agree on everything. Right. It just means we can listen and see a different perspective on life.
Interesting. Interesting. So go ahead.
I was just going to say, this prevents a lot of conflict in the world.
Oh yeah, it would. I mean, you think about it, is a lot of people just have a different view of different situations. And as a result of that, they don't understand why the other person is feeling the way they do, because their perspective is so much different than theirs. If like you said, if we just took the time to really peel back that onion to better understand one another and go, oh, wow, that's why you do that.
Yeah.
I never knew that's why you do that.
For sure. And sometimes, Inga, it's like a case of semantics. Like sometimes it's like we're arguing about the same thing, but we're using different language. Right. And so what means something to me is just the same meaning, but a different word to you. So sometimes I'll go as basic as saying, what does that word even mean to you? Before we even dive into this conversation, tell me what that word means to you. Because if we're not even starting this conversation from the same understanding or same playing field, we're going to be potentially arguing about the same thing. And we don't even know it because we're using different words.
Exactly.
So to really actually, like I said, ask at the most basic level, what does that even mean to you? What is the definition of that for you? That way we're starting this conversation on the same foot and then move forwards from there, you know?
I think that's very, very important just in general for business. If we make sure that we're on the same, I guess, channel as our client or our prospect or our lead, we would be able to do so much more for them. We would truly be able to serve them more so than just selling them a bill of goods, because we understand exactly what they need. And based on that need, we can recommend a product or service or whatever we have to offer to help them get their desired result, and just sell it instead of selling them a bill of goods. I just think that is so important to say.
Definitely.
Go ahead.
No, I'm loving what you're saying, because you're like so on it. And that's really what it is. And people ask about like sales. How do I be a successful salesperson? And I just say, are you listening?
Right.
And are you asking them quality questions? And do you genuinely actually care about the answer? Because if you really actually want to know the needs of this potential client, they will feel that.
Right.
And they'll feel that you're present with them, and they'll feel that you want to know. And then the second piece to that is, can you actually be authentic with yourself and say, can I actually help this person or not?
Right.
Because it goes a really long way when you can say, you know, actually, perhaps they would be better with somebody else. Let me refer them out to a good friend of mine that specializes more in this.
Exactly.
Or you really do stand behind authentically believing that the work you do is perfect for what they need. And that's how that shows up in your communication with them too. And you can say, you know, I'm hearing this from you. I'm hearing this is what you're experiencing. I'm hearing this is what you're going through. And these are the things I do that can help pertain to that. Does that sound good for you? You know?
Right.
And so now it's a real authentic conversation. And so I think sales, I think, is so simple when we really just actually care and ask about someone's needs.
Right. Right. Yeah. I would totally agree. I can think of a circumstance where I was talking to a potential client, and her first question to me was, how much does it cost? I was just like, time out. We haven't even decided if we're a good fit yet. I mean, if we're not a good fit, it doesn't matter how much it's going to cost, because we don't fit. So yeah, but again, it's that translational type of relationship, I guess, that she's been used to, and that's why she came at me the way she did. When I'm thinking, hey, that has nothing to do with what we're doing here. We got to find out if we're a good fit, and if we're not a good fit, then, you know, of course, I got a bunch of coaching friends that I could potentially refer you to, but I'm not going to know that until we actually talk.
And that's just it. And I do understand that some people have, or they feel almost this anxiety around finances when they come into those calls. Mm-hmm. And they just want to know. And I think very much this way in many perspectives too. At least I used to more so. I think I now give a lot more space. But, you know, it's like, give me the macro picture first. Explain to me everything on a grand scale first. You know, what it costs, who you are, what's like all the details, so I can really see it all. And then, you know, break it down into micro bits. And so I think often for some people, they come in with this sort of like anxiety around things already, like they already want to shut down the door before they hear the rest. Right. And that's when I would say, you know, I would love for you to approach this with an open mind, open heart, super happy to address, you know, the conversation around finances. And are you open to hearing the rest as well? Right. So, and I think you're right, like seeing if it's actually a good fit for both of you, because it's not just one-sided. It has to be two of you that jive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Definitely.
Well, girl, you know, I could probably talk to you all day. I could probably talk to you all day, but I did want to show your link and kind of let people know what this is so they'll know how to get in contact with you.
Yeah, beautiful. So please check out the link there. You'll see, you know, my Facebook, my Instagram, a couple other social media links, LinkedIn. And as well, you'll also see a free 30-minute connection call. So I would love to even just have a chat with you guys. Feel free to get in touch if you want to know anything about, how to communicate with people, how to go on dates, to how to resolve conflicts in any of your relationships, to, even business type stuff.
Right.
That communication shows up in everything. Like I said, every problem is a people problem, and all of, or the full quality of our lives really is based around the quality of our relationships. So if you do feel there's an area of your life that you really want to work on, that you think there's room for improvement, don't be shy, reach out. We can just chat. I'm good with that.
Awesome. And I guess I wanted to reiterate that I didn't want to let the cat out of the bag by telling them in the beginning exactly what the secret sauce was to connection. But as you said, the secret sauce is building relationships. We want to make sure that we're building those quality relationships, because those quality relationships, especially if you're in business for yourself, are going to help you grow your business. And it's not just grow your business today, but grow your business in the future, like we were talking about, that long game of making sure that you're getting it done by talking to the people, finding out what they need. And it's not just the person that you're talking to today, it's the person that they know. Because I guess it's kind of similar to that Verizon commercial where they say everybody has their circle of friends, right? And when you talk to somebody, you're not just talking to them, you're talking to their circle of friends too. Because if you develop that relationship, they may not be interested in what you have, but they may know somebody. So you want to definitely keep that door open, so you'll be able to connect with those folks as well.
110%. I mean, we're all connected. At the end of the day, all of us are connected. And I think when we can really tune in and recognize that, and how, who we show up as energetically and obviously verbally, all forms of communication, that totally impacts everyone and anyone in our space, whether we see the ripple effect, that butterfly effect of it or not. So yeah, like you said, Inga, it really all does come down to these quality connections. And that's why I've built out these 9 keys to really help everyone break it down and really understand what quality connections actually looks like. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing with us, girlfriend. It's been awesome sitting here talking to you. And like I said, if we don't cut this thing off, we're going to be here all day, but it's all good. For those of you that are watching, if you know of anyone you would like me to interview, by all means, comment below and let me know. And we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.
Ciao. Thank you.